This video is a clip of our interview with my good friend Smitty from the Fantasy Football Show. The full podcast, 35-minute podcast, is on our podcast, The Uncut Sports Pod. Link is in the description. So if you want to see all of the Dark Horse fantasy players, make sure to go jump over to our podcast, and you can finish off however where you missed off, and make sure as well go follow our Instagram, all that. But without further ado, enjoy.
Today we
the
have a
episode.
huge guest, my friend Smitty Smith from the Fantasy Football Show. How are you doing today?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And today we are going to be discussing fantasy football underdogs. Smitty has fantasy football analysis, so hopefully we should get some good opinions. We'll have a conversation about it. But let's get straight into it with fantasy player number 1, Kenyan Drake. I know I've seen some of your stuff. I know you like Kenyan Drake. What are your thoughts on Kenyan Drake in terms of fantasy for this year?
So, he was one of the best running backs in the entire league from week 9 on when the Arizona Cardinals acquired him. You're going to get a lot of mixed opinions on Drake. I don't know how much you guys follow my mock draft content and my video content on YouTube, but my community drives a lot of ADP data up and down. It's funny. We do so much mock drafting. And Drake, in the early part of the offseason, like even if you talk about the end of last year, December, when I mock draft for the upcoming season, like in October and November, like I'm on that stuff so early. And Drake was like, the tail end of December and walking into January and February, definitely before the Super Bowl, we're mock drafting the heck out of Kenyan Drake at like the 15 and 14 overall draft value. And people are like, this is crazy. How can you have Drake that high? And we've seen him climb, and now he's in like 9 to 12 range for a lot of people, right around 9, 10, 11, 12. And I think it's still deserving. I don't think it's that big of a reach. The guy was literally on fire from week 9 on, and the only argument anybody really has against Kenyan Drake, any sound argument anyway, is that he hasn't been the starter for a full year yet, and that dates back to college. I realize in Miami they didn't use him right, but if you look at the yards per carry, all the way back to 2016 when he joined Miami and he had 5.4 yards a carry, 2017 4.8, 2018 4.5, and then his combined average last year was 4.8, but at Arizona it was 5.2. Like, he's been efficient for the volume that he's been given. The only knock that you can throw Kenyan Drake's direction is that no one's ever given him full-time work. And why is that? But that's the only argument you have. He was the full-time guy for the second half of the year last year and tore it up. At what point do you cut him a break? At what point do you stop holding what other coaching, especially Adam Gase, to him? Like, at what point do you let all that go and just say, you know what, the talent's there. He passes the eye test, and Arizona is going to be a great place for him in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, so we just had our actual fantasy draft for our football league, and I know Kenyan Drake was selected, I believe, 17th around there. And I know I wanted Kenyan Drake. I was looking to pick him up. I unfortunately didn't get him. But yeah, I completely agree with that. I think going into Arizona, speculations, but I think he is now the number 1 running back, obviously with David Johnson getting traded. And yeah, last year was incredible, 643 yards and 8 touchdowns. And as you said, not playing for the full year. So I definitely trust Kenyan Drake this year to, play to, very high standard. And I think he'll be a top running back in terms of fantasy at least. But Serge, what are your thoughts on Kenyan Drake?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think he's got amazing potential in Arizona. I think he can definitely put up great yards this year. I think my one concern is this isn't a knock on him at all. I just feel like because in Cliff Kingsbury's system, it's a lot more pass heavy system. So I'm wondering if he's probably gonna be more of a pass catching back, because I'm worried how many carries is he gonna get a game. And that's probably what some fantasy users might be concerned of as well. But other than that, I love the player.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the, bringing in DeAndre Hopkins isn't, I guess, obviously it helps the team, but, definitely going to be throwing the ball a bit more. But I think, yeah, Kenyan Drake definitely top running back in fantasy this year. Now to our next player, we have Diviso Samuel, the wide receiver out of the 49ers. And so I kind of want you to, put this thought, kind of this situation into your mind. So obviously Emmanuel Sanders is no longer on that team and was very effective last year for the time he was there. Now Diviso Samuel is essentially stepping into a number one receiver role. Obviously George Kittle's there, so maybe not as much receptions. But what are your thoughts on Diviso Samuel in terms of fantasy? How is he looking? What is his numbers going up since he's now one of the main receivers on the Niners?
Well, he's obviously, hurt, and we're not sure when he'll be back, if he'll be back for even
Right.
week one. But I think a lot of speculation about that. I think it's unfair. We don't know how quickly he'll recover. And there's a good shot he's ready for week 2, week 3. He says maybe even week 1, but we'll see. I think he should play it safe. I think, the volume's there for him to be like a 70 reception type player, assuming you extrapolate that on a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there's the volume's there for him to be a 100 catch wide receiver. I think Kittle absorbs a lot. I think they're obviously like the second most, run heavy team in the league. Defensive based team. This is going to be I think a ceiling of 70 type receptions for him on a full year in San Francisco. Ayuk's going to have to mature pretty quickly, and who knows how much of a role he carves out if he gets 3 or 4 games to do so. But yeah, I mean, especially like the rushing, I think he could run Debo if he's healthy. He could run like 25 times, get you like 220, 250 yards on the ground. He had 3 rushing TDs last year, 3 receiving TDs. No reason to think he can't be an 8 or 9 total TD player, 250 on the ground, 1,000 to 1,100 yards through receiving, and 65, 70 receptions. That's the kind of year he could have. That's a high end wide receiver too, But he's got to stay healthy. He's got to get healthy, and we'll see where he's at in late August.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he was obviously rookie last year, and 802 yards with only 3 touchdowns. So I think this year, I mean, yeah, I think he had how many receptions did he have last year? He had 57 receptions. So yeah, I think I agree with you there at 70 receptions. And I think, sir, is a question for you or to think about is he there for 1,000 yards this season? What are your thoughts on that? Assuming he's healthy.
Oh no, you can go. You go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying it depends on if he can get back in time. But yeah,
Right.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. No. I think honestly, I feel like in Shanahan's system, I still feel like that Kittle's gonna be the obvious number 1 target in my opinion because of his pass catching ability. But also they're gonna be a run heavy team because of obviously that's what Shanahan liked to do in San Francisco. They signed Mostert even though there's speculation that he was gonna get traded. They still have Tevin Coleman. They've got and they added Trent Williams on the line. So I feel like they're still going to be a primarily rushing team. And I feel like if anyone's going to get to 1,000, it's Kittle. I feel like Debo's going to be – he's still going to be as much as a threat as he was last year. He's good, but I don't think Shanahan's going to use him really as a number 1 passing receiver. He'll be used as kind of a gadget player. Like he can be used in multiple roles, which obviously is becoming more and more common in today's NFL.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that still could equate to wide receiver 2 numbers, but yeah, I don't see him being anybody's wide receiver 1 in fantasy. The volume, as you
definitely
just mentioned, just isn't there. But I mean, 803 is that's a good season for a rookie in his situation. So he's talented, super talented.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we have to see how he improves because obviously rookie seasons don't tell the whole story. I mean, who knows? He obviously could have an insane season. I mean, but obviously, based on him right now, he looks like a good wide receiver number 2. But I feel like right now he looks like a player that a gadget player that people that obviously, like I said, is like a nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators. So. Obviously, fantasy numbers, he'll put up decent numbers, but obviously, like you said, I don't think you want him as your number 1 receiver, no matter how big your league is.
Yeah, the rushing yards also add a lot to that. So if he's, barely a wide receiver 2 in some context, that extra 220 and 3 rushing touchdowns will put him in that high-end wide receiver 2 category potentially. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Diviso Samuel has an upside. I'm excited to watch him in the Niners this year. But now going to our third player, the rookie, Jonathan Taylor, running back drafted in the early second round by the Indianapolis Colts. And I know it's I mean, if you're a listener thinking, they already have two solid running backs in Hines and Marlon Mack. So why is Smitty? I want to ask you, why is Jonathan Taylor hyped up so much? Why is he looking like going to be one of the better rookie offensive threats?
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to. I I feel like he's got the talent. There's fumbling concerns. Past that, there's whole lot of good. I think not a lot of bad. 5'10", 226 pounds. He's like prototypical between the tackles runner. He's got speed. He's got the power. He's got the offensive line. Everything you want to be like if you want to reflect back and kind of put him in a box, I'd say Marshawn Lynch type value, Marshawn Lynch in his prime type fantasy value and upside, and that was a guy that would get drafted between like 7 and 12 overall.
Yeah, I agree with you there, honestly, because I feel like when I looked at the list, I saw Jonathan Taylor was like for our fantasy draft, he was like a lot higher than Marlon Mack, like about like 60 places higher on the ESPN rankings. So what I'm thinking is that I love Jonathan Taylor a lot too, because I think like you said, I watched him a bit at Wisconsin. He's got great talent, like you said. He's got speed, power, what you want in running back. But I feel like this year, I think Mac's going to get Mac and Hines, but especially Mac is going to be going to take most of the load because, like you said, he's a rookie. And with all the craziness in the world right now, it just doesn't make sense to plug him in day one and make him carry the majority of the load. And Mac has proven to be a solid number one running back, especially behind that offensive line. So I feel like that I feel like at the beginning of the season, like I said, midway into the season, I could definitely see him holding on to that majority first and second down work because he's that talented that he could do it. But I still feel like at the beginning of the year, it just doesn't make much sense to start Taylor because like you said, it's with COVID-19 and they're not getting to visit the facilities that often with a new quarterback and having to learn the blocking schemes and all that. It just makes sense to put in the veteran.
Yeah, and Mac had 1091 on the ground last year, his biggest year ever. 4.4 yards per carry, 4.7 the year before that. 8 touchdowns on the ground last year and 9 the year before that. Mac's not been trending downward. He's been getting better. Granted, he misses games, but he played 14 last year. He played 12 the year before, but 14 last year. Mac has not really done anything wrong to lose the job. I think injury will probably, if I had to guess, present an opportunity for Jonathan Taylor because soft tissue injuries and all these veterans, especially like Mac's very injury prone, are going to get hit hard with this COVID-19 offseason where there's just not the preparation, the preseason gone. There's a real good shot we're going to have more injuries than ever before, especially at the running back position, and especially with a lot of these quick, speedy receivers. They're going to pull hammies. I just think we're going to have a really crazy year with injuries, a really crazy year with COVID-19 IR spots in fantasy. I think everybody's got to add 2 spots at least for IR, for fantasy, for COVID-19 specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously it's Hines and Marlon Mack are going to be digging into some of his rushing, and I agree with you. I think it's COVID-19 really messing everything up in terms of injuries is going to be very hard, and fantasy. Yeah, I think fantasy. If you're not getting a start from Jonathan Taylor until later in the season, mid-season, it's a waste of a 3rd round pick when you could get a solid starter.
That was it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching as well. Make sure to go check out the podcast where we did Calvin Ridley, Kyler Murray, a ton of other players. So we have more in-depth analysis on more players, so go check that out. As well as if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, drop a like and comment what you guys thought, who are your fantasy predictions, and who are you guys drafting in your fantasy league. Peace out.